Hey guys, I'm Ben.
And I'm Barney.
And this is For the Love of Running.
Today we're going to take you on a sub 20-minute 5K.
Off we go. Right, the sub 20-minute 5K, one of the big milestones in running. Everyone remembers their first, and something that lots of people are chasing. When was yours, Barn?
Mine was back in COVID. Felt like that's when everyone was getting out there running. And yeah, it's pretty fun.
So was mine. 2021, it's 4-minute splits is what we need to lock into overall, but we're going to pace it slightly differently. What's the plan in this first kilometre?
Well, I feel like just as everyone normally does, we've gone out the blocks very quickly, so we're going to just hold it back a little bit. For me, I tend to not worry in the first kilometre. As long as it's sub 4:10, I'm not too panicked. I know that I can make up the time later.
Yeah, I'm exactly the same. This first kilometre is just about not going too quickly. You don't want to burn any matches too early. So the only goal here is for this to start with a 4. We are here in Battersea Park, the runner's paradise. So it is tempting to go too quickly on these flat roads.
But like if you want a 5K PB, this is the place to come. To be fair, this is actually probably ideal running conditions as well.
Yeah, not too hot. So we're just ticking over half the kilometre. We're going at 3:56. So we're going to keep just easing off a bit. It's so tempting at the start, particularly if it's a race. Everyone around you races off too quickly and it's tempting to do the same. But you just want to settle into that pace. And it's even more satisfying when you then overtake those people at the end. So just don't go off too quickly is our plan.
Yeah, I feel like for me, the temptation at the start of a 5K is always to get time in the bank. I'm like, oh, if I'm sub 4 to begin with, then I've got time to play with at the end. But I feel like that's not really how it works.
No, I was once given some great advice that if you feel good at the start of a race, bank energy, not time. So don't go out there and try and gain 20 seconds or something. You'd rather have that time in the bank for the end. Just take the good feeling that you're feeling, bank some energy, and then at the end you'll use it.
Exactly. Want to see a big sprint finish maybe?
Yeah, could be. I know Barney likes a sprint finish. So even if we're slightly behind the time, you've always got something at the end. We're much better now. This kilometre is on for a 4:03. That's exactly the kind of thing we're aiming for.
So we're about to tick over our first kilometre. Time on the watch is 4:04. So it's pretty perfect for me if I'm doing my first kilometre of my sub 25K. This is kind of the dream. I'm still feeling pretty good. Got a lot of energy left in the locker. Which is kind of where you want to be after kilometre 1.
Yeah. So now into kilometre 2 with both of these first two. I think it's about just keeping that heart rate as low as you can. That's what's going to hurt you later in the race if you go out too quickly. I remember once running a park run in Sydney where it was much hotter than it normally is here in Battersea Park. And I went at my usual pace, but my heart rate was much higher and I just totally burnt out at 4K and then just had about 100 people overtake me. So these first 2K, it's about keeping it steady. This one, now that we're into the second K, we just want to lock into that rhythm. Probably for this K aiming for about 4 minutes flat.
Yeah.
And then we'll take that into the third K as well. So We need to speed up a tiny bit for this K, but that's not a problem.
Yeah, I think the key with a 5K, on the one hand, it passes very quickly, but on the other hand, you do have time to make those adjustments. And I think definitely when I first tried to breach the sub 20 gap, I was sort of always so worried that, oh no, 2 kilometers in and I've run 2 4:05s, game over. Whereas now, it's kind of okay. You've got the time in the next 3 to just put a little spurt in and get yourself back where you need to be.
Yeah.
So you said heart rate was the key. What's yours at the minute?
Mine is currently at 159.
157.
He's winning the heart rate game. And try and lower that. I'll stop talking. I always find this second kilometre about this point, where it's just coming up to 1.6 kilometres, is where for the first time it starts to feel tough. And it's pretty overwhelming to feel like you're not even a third of the way through, you've still got 3.4k left. But it's amazing how once you find that rhythm, you can just lock in and the time starts flying through kilometre 2 and 3. So at this point, by now we should have found our pace. We're bang on track here. It's time to just lock in, focus on your breathing, focus on staying relaxed. Don't get too tense in the upper body or the arms. And let's just start ticking off 100 or 200 meters at a time through this middle period.
Yeah, I feel like these middle kilometers, it's all just about those mini goals, whether it's a tree in the distance or next 150 meters on your watch. I sometimes guess how far a lamppost is away from me and use that sort of game to sort of trick my mind that I'm not actually running at an uncomfortable speed.
Just 100 meters left of this second kilometre.
I feel like the other thing is, if you're doing this on your own, it's a mental game, but also when you're racing, whether it's parkrun or in an event, I feel like it's very tempting to wonder what everyone around you is doing, what times they're aiming for. But to be honest, as you'll find out, everyone runs this distance a bit differently, and I feel like you don't need to worry too much about what everyone else is doing, as long as you're locked into your own plan.
Yeah. It is so much easier to run with other people though. Even this, just having 2 of us, so much nicer. So we're through the second kilometre now. That second K was a 4:01. So pretty much exactly what we're aiming for. Close to that 4-minute mark. So overall, we are technically 5 seconds down on those first 2K, but it's easy to find 5 seconds on the last 2K. So that's why we banked that energy earlier, so that we can push more at the end. I'm not worried at all about those 5 seconds. I'd much rather it this way around than the other way around, where we've gone out too quickly. Now this third K is where it starts to get really tough. And again, it feels like so much of the race is still to come. I remember it's always about 2.5K as you're coming up to the halfway point and your body is starting to really be unhappy with you. And you're not even halfway. Feels horrible. But let's just stay in that rhythm. Again, we're aiming for 4-minute kilometre here, maybe just under, somewhere in that kind of 3:57 to 4-minute window. And we just want to stay in our rhythm.
So we're already halfway through the race and feeling okay. As Ben said, you start to feel the fatigue here, but I always feel like once you're over that hump, over the halfway, it's all downhill from here, surely.
Yeah, particularly I love a park run or a 5k where it's an out and back loop. So if that was the case, we would have now rounded the final corner and we're on our way back. And I feel at that point, you may as well do it quicker because you're on your way home anyway. So once you're past halfway, it feels like the home straight. Now this 3rd kilometre is where it really does start to feel tough, particularly if it's your first time going for it in uncharted territory. And this is where I'd start to just make sure that my form and my technique is good. Now I'm no running coach, but the best piece of advice I was given on this was about cadence, which is the number of steps you're taking per minute. And most sort of beginner amateur runners are taking too few. And actually the more steps you take, the less time you're in contact with the ground, you feel more bouncy. So that's one of the things I'd be focusing on here, partly just to distract myself, would be, is my cadence quick enough? Am I keeping those legs turning over? If you've got a running watch, it can tell you your cadence. I wouldn't worry too much about that. Just run off feel, but make sure your legs are still turning over quickly.
I think I might be wrong here. The people often say 180 steps per minute is the way to go. And I think, personally, I'm not very good at keeping count on 180. But if you are, then again, a good distraction technique.
Yeah. So we just ticked through the 3rd K, actually slightly quicker than planned. I got distracted talking about cadence.
You're excited?
That was a 350, which is fine, but I wouldn't necessarily have planned that because we have now entered the dreaded 4th kilometre. And this is where I really want to have enough left in the tank, because this is where I at least find it gets very hard.
No, I think I'd be pretty similar. Although to be fair to us, a lot of people in this 4th kilometre actually even slow down a tiny bit on what they've been doing, so they have that gas in the tank for the final K.
Yeah.
So whilst we might have gone a bit nippy for the 3rd kilometre, actually we're still cruising. We know we've got time to play with. And I think the key thing for me, the word that always goes through my mind is just steady. In this 5K, just relax. It's easy to get ahead of yourself, wonder whether you have it in you. But actually, there's no need to panic. Just keep on roughly on track with what you're doing. We've done the 350, so I'm thinking, okay, I'm actually 5 seconds under where I expected to be, probably. So I can afford to just be quite relaxed about what happens in this next kilometre.
Yeah. So just ticking up to 3.4k, that's where it starts to get really hard for me. And that's where I start to think, I'm only 2/3 of the way through. Still so much of the race to go. But then the other thing I try and tell myself at this point is, you've done the hard work now. It would be a shame to let it drop. It's actually only, just over 6 minutes of running now. We've already done more than double that. We've done the hard work. Now just lock in and see if we can make it worth it at the end. It's only 1.5 kilometres now. We can always find something to keep pushing there.
It is true, but as we approach 3.6k, I think this is where I start to wonder why I signed up to this. It can be feeling pretty tough at this stage. I think this is just the mental grind. You know that you can run at this speed because you've just been doing it and you've done it before. It's just about willing your body on and trusting yourself that once you're in that final kilometre, things are going to look a bit prettier.
Yeah.
To be fair as well, we're edging toward where our tactics might start differing.
Yeah, the age-old question, a negative split, an even split, or a positive split. Now, I have strong opinions. What's your tactic, man?
Personally, I'm quite like being quite consistent, hovering around that 4 mark. And I know that, for me at least, I've got a decent enough sprint in me and I can hold it. So I'm not too worried at this stage. I'm just thinking, stick around the 4 minutes, 350s, and at the end, that's when I'll put my foot down.
See, I'm not as quick a sprinter as Ben, I more need to take advantage of the long lanky legs. So this is probably the point. We're now at 3.9k, where if I'm feeling up to it, I'll just start squeezing. Not a big sprint finish, not a big push, but just squeeze an extra 5%, and then in a couple of 100 meters, 10%, and just gradually build. All my best runs have come off a big negative split, where I've left enough in the tank for this sort of last kilometre and a half. Now we just ticked over 4k. That was perfect. A 3:54, so holding in under that 4-minute mark. And this is the point where we're into the last kilometre and it gets easier again. The last kilometre never counts. It's just all out to the finish. Don't go too early, but in your head you're thinking, I'm into the last lap now. Let's really push. Let's make the hard work worth it. I promise you, this one will feel easier than the 4th kilometre. Even if you go faster, it'll feel easier as you're hunting down that finish line.
No, absolutely, and you just got to remember that you're within the last kilometre. You were planning on doing a sub 4-minute K here anyway, so actually this is probably the shortest kilometre you're going to run in terms of time, and so you just got to lock into that end goal and power through to the end. If you're feeling like it, you know, you take that 5% squeeze to a 10% now.
Yeah.
We've got about 700 meters left, so I'd try to probably just, for me personally anyway, I'm upping the ante here. I'm pushing a bit harder, but nothing crazy. I don't need to because I've run to my plan, and so I'm just gonna stick at this slightly elevated pace, and then if I've got anything left at the end, it'll be good fun for a sprint finish.
Yeah. And it's at this point, if you're struggling, just start visualising that finish line. Visualise how it'll feel. Your hard work and your training plan paying off. We literally have 2.5 minutes of running left, 2.5 minutes to push. So just focus on that finish line, empty the tank, and leave it all out there.
I'm still thinking about my form here. I'm not sort of letting my legs and limbs splay everywhere, and just gently easing my way through the gears as I approach the finish.
Don't be tempted to go too early. We've still got 400 meters left, which is a lovely milestone for those people who train on the track, because it's 1 lap of the track, so just lock in. But don't go too early. We don't want to totally burn out, but this is the time to start really emptying the tank. And I'd say those last 200 is where to properly let go, which is coming up soon for us.
Yeah, the meters fly by at this stage in the race.
Yeah.
Suddenly 400, 300, 200, before you know it. Just lock in.
And I'd say at this point, it's time to just max out. Now that might mean, if you're tired, that you don't actually speed up at all, but you just max out in terms of holding on. You use that last bit of energy to hold on. Even if you're slowing down, you might have banked enough time to still come in under 20 minutes. If you are feeling good, this is the time to really push it, maybe even speed up. We have 160 meters left. We're just going to squeeze that final ounce of energy, really empty the tank here. Just coming up to the final 100, time to really push. Eyes on the finish line, think about the feeling at the end, and just let everything go and push.
It's 30 meters. You can give it all now. You know you're going to stop. The last 10 will be nothing. And
Again.
Almost there. There we go.
Right, we're done. 5 kilometres, 19:32.
Huge.
Good work. Bit of wiggle room at the end there. We went slightly quick in that 3rd kilometre, but that's about right. A little bit of leeway.
We hope this helped you visualise the process.
And good luck with your attempt. Remember to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and follow For the Love of Running on all socials.
See you in the next video. Time for a warm down?
Let's go.